So. Jetzt müsste das eigentlich passen. Und damit sage ich herzlich willkommen zurück. Lange nichts gekommen. Hatte auch diverse Gründe. Erst Arbeit, dann ist ganz viel kaputt gegangen und dann war irgendwie Urlaub, Umbau und dann bin ich krank geworden. Sonst wäre schon viel früher was gekommen. Aber wenn man keine Stimme hat, ne, meine Lieben, kann man nicht sprechen. Dafür heute wieder was. Wir gucken in Autopsy rein. Ich habe den schon mal gespielt, das ist jetzt wieder fast ein Jahr her, 86 Minuten. Keine Ahnung, was da noch drin vorgekommen ist. Ich hoffe, Ton und das passt alles einigermaßen zusammen. Das wird schon irgendwie. So, wir gucken. So, jetzt aber. Wir gucken. Da mal rein. Genau, das war der Spielstand. Das war irgendwie Juni letztes Jahr. Wir machen ein neues Spiel und gucken uns das nochmal alles an. Leider aufgrund Umbauarbeiten bin ich mit dem PC umgezogen. Jetzt müssen wir mal gucken, ob das alles funktioniert.
Office of the Medical Examiner, Beatsville. Dr. Jack Hanman is speaking. How can I help you?
Good evening, this is Kate Brooks. I'm not sure if you remember me. A few weeks ago, we talked about an article I'm working on. It's about your wife. I dropped by last Friday to speak to you, but you weren't working at the time. I asked the security guard to pass on a note for me. I would like us to discuss the topic of...
I thought I had made it painfully obvious for the last time. No! Please don't call me again and stop inquiring about my wife. Damn journalists. They don't let me work. God damn it. I'm not in the best frame of mind to record a lecture for my students now. I'm feeling completely broken. Where did I leave my meds this time?
Okay. Dessen bitte nicht meckern. Falls irgendwas sein sollte, das werden erstmal Testaufnahmen die nächsten sein. Ja, vorlesen wird jetzt schwierig tatsächlich. Ich versuche auch mittelmäßig viel zu reden.
They definitely pay me too little for this. Stephen didn't clean up after himself again.
Okay.
He won't be needed for the next few months. Wednesday. It's not my favorite day, although it's certainly better than Monday.
So, wir sollen jetzt erstmal in dem Bad nach den Tabletten suchen. Gucken. Da.
Okay. Time to pull myself together. And get back to work.
Okay.
I need to set up the camera first.
Die Kamera aus dem Lagerraum. Wo ist denn der Lagerraum? Okay, du bist nicht der Lagerraum. Storage. Sollten wir holen? Kamera. Okay, das wird auch noch relevant.
I don't see any need to mess with the electrics. They are flaky enough as it is.
Das sieht schon cool aus draußen, ne? Da ist die Kamera.
Now remember, Jack, don't forget, hit the record button this time.
Auf das Stativ.
Hopefully the new tripod is going to hold up.
Da hinten. Oh Gott, ich dachte, ich wollte gerade sagen, also, wir können nichts sehen.
Now, I just have to get everything in frame. This should be fine. November 20th, 1991. Time, 8:43 p.m. Recording for medical students from the University of Missouri. This autopsy is conducted by Jack Hanman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the autopsy room. Today, you will have the dubious pleasure of following a full autopsy, step by step. For those of you who have already performed your first autopsy, this will refresh your basic knowledge. In turn, for those whose knowledge is only theoretical, I advise not to watch this after a meal. Let's start. Always wear an apron, mask, and gloves. Goggles are a must when the job is splashy. And in case of sharp accidents, it's worth having disinfectants at hand. It's true that you won't get ptomaine poisoning straight away, but if your liver or kidney aren't doing well, you may end up with diarrhea. The cadaver is placed on its back on the autopsy table. The pathologist stands on the right of the deceased. Make sure that all the necessary tools are always at hand so that you don't have to run around looking for something, like I do all the time. In the process of reviewing and securing forensic evidence, it is difficult not to interfere with the original condition of the deceased. Written and photographic documentation plays a vital role throughout the entire examination process. During your research, be patient, inquisitive, but above all, attentive to detail. Many entries are visible at first glance, but sometimes they can be cover for more interesting stories. And lastly, remember that nothing teaches you self-narration like working with the dead. So get used to that fact soon. Everyone will think you're talking to yourself.
Okay.
Now, onto the police folder. That will contain all sorts of pertinent information as to who the deceased might be and what potentially happened to them. So, let's take a closer look, shall we? The deceased was found on the outskirts of a parking lot at a gas station, where he often begged and persistently offered drivers to wash their car windows. The body was noticed by a station employee during the morning shift. Initially, he thought that someone had thrown some boots and a coat in a nearby ditch. It took him a moment to recognize the pile of clothes as the body of a man.
Okay.
He worked most of his life at the local port dealing with unloaded cargo. He was fired for being drunk and starting fights. His son runs a hardware store on his own. His wife left him years ago. They both had no contact with the deceased. Signs of libation were found around the body. Empty bottles, traces of an inept attempt to start a fire, and a scattered makeshift blanket. The deceased's name is Tobias Chambers, locally known as Old Toby. Homeless and unemployed for at least a couple of years.
Okay, dann haben wir das durch.
That's it. It's worth remembering the context around the scene of a death. This allows you to better interpret any traces found on the body. I shouldn't start the procedure without gloves.
Schuhe zum Anziehen. Das sind wohl die.
Now it's our turn to take some pictures for our files. If I can just remember where I left the camera. It's in here somewhere.
Schreibtischschublade.
Aha! There you are. I knew it was here somewhere. As I mentioned at the beginning, before we begin the internal examination, we need to document the cadaver and the condition it arrived in. We begin with a full body photo. Try and stick to the top-down rule, but this is not always possible. Let's keep in mind it's all about the legibility, not the perfect frame.
Okay, F, Kamera.
Voila, now we move on to the next step, looking for traces. Take your time. Look at the corpse from different sides, from different angles, up close, and from a distance. You're looking for anything out of the ordinary.
Okay. Müssen wir uns den Leichnam offensichtlich...
A poorly healed wound. Looks old. I'll take a closer look later.
Das haben wir. Okay, das brauchen wir offensichtlich irgendwie nicht dokumentieren.
Some wounds in the feet and signs of frostbite, probably because the subject's shoes were too small.
Ich habe Angst, dass man irgendwas sehen kann, ne?
Hardened hands, worn out by physical work,
Okay, er hat
and
auch Gefrierbrand an den Händen.
frostbite.
Und irgendwas am Kopf.
That's something interesting. It will be necessary to check whether this injury was severe enough to cause damage to the brain. In a moment, we will check which of our initial observations will be worthy of further consideration. But before we get to that, I need to write down some basic data.
Okay, haben wir auch gemacht. Führe die Obduktion durch. Okay.
Personal information. The deceased was unclothed. Date. Okay. As you can see, I note everything down on previously prepared forms. Every pathologist must keep a detailed record of every step of the autopsy. This not only allows you to track the procedure, but also collates the results together, upon which you may back up your conclusions. So, enough of the boring prep. Let's begin by taking a closer look at the spots I photographed earlier. For this, you're going to need a magnifying glass.
So. Wir brauchen eine Lupe.
Scalpel, scissors, syringe, magnifying glass, knife. I guess I forgot to clean the knife.
Ja, aber ich brauche doch eine Lupe, oder?
Scalpel, scissors, syringe, magnifying glass,
Oder gibt er mir
knife.
die Lupe so?
I guess I forgot to clean the knife.
Ah, Werkzeuge. Okay, Lupe.
Which spot first?
Okay, da kann man jetzt nicht wirklich was groß nehmen.
Here we can see frostbite on the fingertips. We can tell by the characteristic skin color.
Okay. Man kann mal ein bisschen von diesem Bereich wegtreten, ne?
It looks like a burn mark. No doubt painful, but it's not pertinent for this case.
Okay.
I can confirm the presence of ecchymosis on the deceased man's head. The appearance indicates the intravital nature of the wound. Add alcohol, which I can clearly smell, and this was an accident just waiting to happen. Definitely a painful mix of frostbite, abrasions, and blisters. Old Toby had been wearing shoes too
Das
small
sieht
for him
nicht
for a
gut
very long
aus.
time. That's if he wore any at all. So far, there are a lot of superficial wounds, but only one serious injury to the head. Let's go back to our notes.
Okay, die... Welches Klemmbrett? Auf welchem Klemmbrett? Out of order, okay. Ich will mal ganz kurz ein bisschen gucken. Und dann müssen wir mal gucken, welches Klemmbrett. Ah, ich kann mit Shift.
First,
Okay.
I mark the location of the injuries and make
Okay,
notes
wir
for
haben
the
am
head
Kopf
wound.
was.
Definitely an important clue,
Wir
even
haben
though this
da
type of
was.
wound didn't contribute to the... We're
Da
not in
was.
frost season yet. If
Wir haben
Toby's
da
body
was.
was cold for a prolonged period, the frostbite could have resulted from the body's defense reaction. The safety of the internal organs is more important than fingers, nose, or ears. As you can see, we don't have much to go on. Let's write down what preliminary causes of death we can think of.
Okay, die Verbrennung ist ja unrelevant.
Considering the conditions in
Das
which he slept,
könnte.
His body, the nights have been particularly nasty lately. We will check if there are any signs of freezing internally. Various types of accidents are a common cause of death among the homeless and the elderly. Perhaps old Toby slipped and accidentally hit his head.
So.
This is of no interest to us.
Ist hinfällig, weil
clearly smelled of
eine alte
alcohol.
Wunde.
I'll add alcohol poisoning to our list.
Okay.
We still have one thing left from the basics. Rigor mortis.
Führe die Rigor Mortis Untersuchung durch.
Well, we take our deceased by the hand. Gradually we raise it.
Okay, dann kannst du hochziehen. Oh.
Now let it go. As you can see,
Okay.
the hand falls loose. What's the conclusion? Death must have occurred more than 72 hours ago. The police information appears correct.
Okay.
Head trauma seems the most promising, so we'll start there. For this, I need an
Schädelsäge.
oscillating saw.
Säge.
The cut is made from ear to ear. After which, we remove the skin and the top of the skull. After the basic examination, we can see that the brain's cerebral gyri in both hemispheres are symmetric. The brain looks good. Let's take a cross-section. Some pathologists prefer to examine organs without removing them. However, for me, it's much more convenient to examine them on a board, which we'll do now. Holding a long, narrow blade knife in the dominant hand, we slowly cut the cranial nerves on both sides, all the time pulling the brain towards us. So far, so good. The hematoma seems to have had no effect on the brain.
Okay, also im Kopf scheint nichts zu sein.
We can rule the fatal accident out as well.
Okay.
Brain is in good condition, so we have no choice but to proceed to the internal examination of the other organs.
Okay.
I grab a scalpel from my kit.
Hm? So, das Skalpell.
The incision should be in the shape of a letter Y. We use a deep cut to reach all the way to the ribs and to penetrate the abdominal wall. Alright, now we peel back and separate the skin.
Hammer. Nein. Hammer.
Now, we need to remove the
Hammer.
ribs. We'll need the loppers for this.
Gott, ey.
Quite a satisfying crunch, for some anyway. After removing the cartilage tissue, we instantly notice two things.
Also,
Firstly,
definitiv
there is no
Raucher.
congestion of the internal organs. This means that although the deceased was hypothermic, it didn't kill him. Secondly, the deceased smoked like a chimney. So, we can see widespread black and tarring
Definitiv
despite the
Raucher.
tragic condition of the lungs. They are not the cause of death. Alice smoked too. it didn't kill her, but... what was I talking about? Lungs. Yes. Advanced inflammation.
Ja, klar. Steht nicht im Zusammenhang mit dem Tod.
What now? The syringe. Now's a good time to collect some samples. Specifically 3. From the eye, the heart, and the bladder. 5 milliliters from the left ventricle should do it. Now from the bladder, we draw about 10 milliliters of fluid. Vitreous humor analysis is very useful in indicating long-term alcohol abuse. Now we take our samples to the centrifuge. But before I do that, I need to find my notebook. My dyscalculia means that I always double-check the settings. Please excuse me while I run and fetch it.
Okay. Ab ins Büro. Falsche Seite.
This whole thing is covered in stains. I should check this out under the microscope sometime.
Kann ich die denn benutzen?
Let's get back to the examination. We put all of the samples into the rotor.
Okay, warte mal. Okay, Geschwindigkeit 70%, Pipette 5 Milliliter.
Now, we set the appropriate time and speed.
Ja, ich wäre jetzt bei Alkohol im Blut, ne? Speed 70 und 15 Minuten. Oh, falsche Taste, Entschuldigung. 70?
Okay, let's roll. Oh shit, the fuses again. Where were we? Oh yes, the blood alcohol concentration. Let's see what we got here. Everything's separated as it should. Our lab is closed until tomorrow after the last, incident. However, considering that Toby's favorite eau de parfum appears to be ethanol, I'm guessing the results won't surprise me at all. Let's go further. We will now focus on the cardiovascular system, specifically the heart.
Okay.
We remove the organ and examine it closely. We look for dark hypoxic areas,
Das ist das
clots,
Herz.
or other elements that stand out as abnormal.
Ja,
At first glance, the heart looks fine. The pulmonary trunk and aorta seem to be in good condition. There are no pathological changes that would have contributed to Toby's death.
Okay.
Now let's take a closer look at the stomach.
Dürfen jetzt das Herz untersuchen. Wo ist das Herz dann? Mit einer gründlichen Magenanalyse. Ich dachte, wir dürfen das Herz jetzt untersuchen.
Size is normal, healthy, pink color.
Oh.
And as expected,
Sieht ein bisschen
the
aus wie eine
stomach has
Ente,
no
wenn man das
major
so
external
hinhält.
damage.
Ente, 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 Ente,
We must
Ente.
now cut it open and inspect inside. We will do
Okay.
it carefully so that its contents do not spill out. We open the stomach along the greater curvature, from the heart to the pyloric end. Oh, I already feel like there's something left inside. Okay, large amount of gas, small amounts of yellow, grayish food content, resembling some kind of meat. Either our deceased hadn't eaten in days, or the bulk of his stomach had already found a way out. Looks like I'll have to find the missing contents.
Okay.
There are two ways here. One is obvious, and the other is... It couldn't have been suffocation, could it? I'll add this to the list and move
Okay,
on
jetzt
to
ist
the
Ersticken
deceased's
auch
neck.
drin, ne? Luftröhre.
At first glance, the trachea looks normal.
Das sieht aus wie ein kleines Männchen, was sich freut. Wow! Wow!
Same result as with the stomach. The external inspection doesn't tell us
Whoa,
anything.
Patty!
This time we'll cut on a tray.
Buddy! 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 Wow! Wenn du immer so... so... Wow! Wow! Und fährt er vielleicht auch Achterbahn. Okay.
While cutting such a small organ as the trachea, we must make a precise incision.
Luftröhre. Okay.
To be able to cut with the very tip of the blade, we must hold the scalpel as we would a pen. And after careful examination and deduction, we've got it. A clogged trachea. It's time to summarize the whole thing.
Okay. Also er könnte tatsächlich erstickt sein.
Based on the report and preliminary documentation, it's safe to assume that the deceased passed out after consumption of alcohol and then fell asleep on his back. Then, the gastric contents refluxed and flooded the airways, causing death. That's why we don't forget about the recovery position at dorm parties.
Wow, wir haben einen Fall gelöst. Ist das cool. Aber es ist sehr detailliert. Unfall.
Now it's all clear. The death was suffocation. The mystery is solved. But for us, this is not the end. First, the dead body needs to be cleaned up.
Wir hätten ein Einhorn malen können. Egal. Fertig.
For this, we will need to close the body and grab
Schließe
the
den
needle.
Leichnam.
First, we unroll the skin flaps. And then, we sew the deceased back up.
Model.
I'm using the baseball stitch technique. This stitching method is very strong and quick to do. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Now we say goodbye to the deceased and put them safely in the fridge, ready for the next stage of their journey. God, I'm tired. I'll drop these samples off at the lab on the way to the bar.
Können wir uns die angucken? Nein, können wir nicht. Schade.
I'll call Steven. I don't feel like drinking alone today.
Das war unsere erste Schicht. Liegen wahrscheinlich wir unter, ne? Ja, oder so. Hm. Ich glaube, man macht seinen Job schon sehr lange. Cool. Ja, das war jetzt natürlich erstmal nur der Prolog.
Forgive me. What? Fuck. I should take my pills.
Genau, das war jetzt erstmal der Prolog, der Part 1. Ja, weiß ich noch nicht. Gruseliger Job. Respekt an jedem, der das kann. Das ist genauso, es gibt ja so viele Jobs wie Altenpflege und Bestatter und in der Rechtsmedizin oder so. Also echt Hut ab. Oder auch Krankenhäusern etc. Hat mal so ganz Spaß gemacht. Wir gucken, ob wir es weiterspielen. Ich weiß nicht, ob da noch ein bisschen Horror vielleicht zukommt. Aber so erstmal ganz cool. Dann sage ich vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss.